Connection Point Church has been committed to loving its neighbors for a while now. And last year in that commitment, what we looked to do is to be able to love our local families by investing in our kids' spaces, specifically with our infants and toddlers and preschool spaces. It's been a lot of fun to be able to sit down the last several months, meeting with our Connection Point Kids leaders to discuss how do we wisely invest, not just for this year or not just for next year, but for years to come in these kids' spaces to make sure we've equipped our volunteers well and that we bless the kids and the families that come into those spaces. We also, this last year, thanks to Purdue University, West Lafayette is home to many young adults. In fact, half the population in West Lafayette is between the ages of 18 and 24. So for us to be an effective local church, for us to love our neighbors well, we've got to love the next generation leaders well. And so last year we were able to send a team to Istanbul, Turkey to work with the Lived Ed Training Center there. We were able to send our high school seniors to Morocco. We were able to help some of our youth get to youth camp and youth convention. So it's been amazing to see last year how we were able to invest in our next generation leaders to love our young adult neighbors well. Last year, Connection Point not only made a commitment to love our local neighbors well, our young adult neighbors well, but we also made a commitment to love our global neighbors well. And so last year we did that by investing in farming initiatives in rural villages in China. We did that by investing in fire Bibles for kids in Vanuatu. We got to get behind a church planting training center in Mali in Africa. We also invested in a training center for local pastors in Ecuador. We've been able to love our global neighbors well last year. But not only did we do those things, but we're actually going to love our neighbors in India and Tajikistan well by sending some of our very own from Connection Point to go and share the good news with people in those spaces. But we also got behind a couple that just a couple of weeks ago took off for Saudi Arabia, that we intend to love our neighbors in Saudi Arabia well as we send a couple to share the good news of Jesus with them. Connection Point is making an incredible difference, loving our local neighbors, our young adult neighbors, and our global neighbors. This year through Kingdom Builders, we intend to love our local neighbors well. We want to continue to love them through the continued support of the food pantry, for Mega Sports Camp, that we continue to bless local families with Thanksgiving baskets, with car seats, and with backpacks full of school supplies. We mean to love our local families well. We also want to continue to invest in our Connection Point Kids spaces, this time focusing in our elementary areas, so that we can better equip our volunteers as they invest in the next generation of everyday disciple makers. Part of loving our local neighbors well includes loving our young adult population well. We have tens of thousands of them here, and for us to be an effective local church, we've got to be intentional about investing in our next generation leaders. So this year at Connection Point, we intend to do that on Sunday afternoons as we provide lunch and discipleship through our Young Adult Connect group. We also want to invest in their future by sending some to go to Israel to the Lived Ed Church Planting Training Center there. We also want to get behind sending our seniors to Morocco. It's in these overseas settings that our young adult population can see the difference their lives can make on a global scale. We also intend to get behind some of our youth and helping them get to youth camp and youth convention. Connection Point Church is committed to loving our young adult local population. We also intend to love our global neighbors well. This year through Kingdom Builders, we want to get behind a community center in Spain. We want to invest in outreach initiatives in China. We want to invest in orphan care in Thailand. We want to be a part of a kids feeding and discipleship center in South Africa. And we want to be a part of a church planting center in Cuba. Did you hear me? Cuba. I just love that. And two of our bigger projects this year include a church planting, a Lived Ed outpost in an unreached area of Turkey. We want to get behind this outpost to be able to share the good news where it has not gone. And we also want to get behind one of the largest church planting movements in the Middle East. We want to invest in discipleship materials and in other ways that we can get behind this movement that God is using to turn hearts toward Him. Tens of thousands of former Muslims becoming followers of Jesus, living in persecuted parts of this planet, but being able to be bold in their faith, and we want to be able to help them storm the gates of hell to be able to share the good news in parts and places where it's never gone before. Connection Point is making a difference on a global scale. Through Kingdom Builders, we get to love our local neighbors well. We get to love our young adult neighbors well. And we get to love our global neighbors in extraordinary ways. Will you love your actual neighbors well? Will you love those neighbors who are not like you? Will you love your global neighbors well? The question is not, who is my neighbor? The question is, who will you be a good neighbor to? It is the expectation of Jesus that we love our neighbors well. But really, it's just his expectation that we love well. So to be able to remind you of this expectation, that Jesus gives us this command, a new command I give to you, he told his disciples, love. On your way out today, we have a mug that we'd like for you to pick up that on one side says for Greater Lafayette, and on the other side has that question of what does love require of me? Because if you can answer that question in every situation, you'll be able to take the next right step in following Jesus. That what does love require of me as a parent? What does love require of me as a spouse? What does love require of me as a coworker, as a student, as a neighbor? If you answer that question, you'll be able to share the good news of Jesus well. What does love require of me?